You're listening to The Sane Mom Show, and I am your host, Dorothy Whitfield.
My guest today is Caroline Domanska, and she's the founder of Money Mindset Coaching. So if you are ready to get unstuck and ready to let this money flow into your life the way that it is meant to, then she is going to help us do it. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much. It's so nice to be here. I'm very excited.
So for everyone that is new to you, please tell us about yourself.
Okay, so I help smart cookie women and men who feel like they're kind of wading through treacle with their finances and feel really stuck. And they know that things could be different. They can't quite put their finger on it. They've tried all the logical stuff and nothing really seems to be happening. So I help them look at two sides, which is the logical part of your money, but also how your brain thinks about money as well. And I put those two together to help people make a upgraded life, to earn more money and feel confident about really where they are with money. My background is all in finance. So I started off 20 or more years ago now, actually, doing a cashiering job in a bank. So, and even before that, when I was a kid, I loved piggy banks and I love kind of organizing, although having the little cash registers and things like that. So I guess money's always been in my veins. And so I went kind of the traditional route and trained as a financial advisor, and was a financial advisor in the UK and overseas. I lived in the Middle East for a while. And I started my own business from scratch there and grew that. But I always knew that there was something else, right? That what if we could talk to people about money without products being involved? What if it didn't come down, if we could take that kind of selling part out of the equation? How would the tone of the conversation differ? And it turns out it differs massively. Kind of moment of truth, I suppose, if it were for me, was for a long time, I always thought kind of my thoughts just happened to me, that I didn't really have any control over them, that I don't know where I thought they came from, but I honestly, no, I didn't think I had any control over them. And then I went to a training course whilst I was away in the Middle East, actually. And it was kind of like one of those things where, you've signed up to go to this training course and you're like, I really have to go. I'm basically just looking forward to the coffee break and what type of biscuits they might have on offer and all that kind of thing. So I'm thinking about that. And actually, when I got there, it was kind of really enlightening. We talked about how the brain worked and how our thoughts and feelings are all come from what we've learned over time and our beliefs, and that they were just decisions we made at one point in time. And so therefore we have the power to make those decisions again and change them if they're not supporting us. And I was like, whoa. And then over time, what happened is I thought, right, how can I put this together with money? How can I help people on both sides? And that's when my journey changed. And now that's what I do full time, is help people on a practical sense with money, but also unlock their mindset and what's happening there.
Now, where do you find that a lot of the money mindset challenges come from? What have you found in your business?
There's kind of 5 areas that I really focus on people, 5 steps I take people through. And I think that helps unlock different blocks along the way. So where I start is always thinking about kind of what's your motivation, because there's that Jim Rohn quote, isn't it? The bigger the why, the easier the how, right? I think when we really drill down into what motivates us around money and what's really our priority around it, then it becomes easier to allow money to flow in. Because a lot of times, I think probably one of the biggest blocks I see around money is this kind of idea that it's uncouth, kind of greedy, kind of that we're going to change into some sort of awful, horrible person if we have more money. We really have to look at deep reasonings why we want more money in our life, because money is really just there to bring our dreams into reality. That's all. It's not there to, if you're a nice person now, you'll be a nice person with money. If you're a horrible person now, you'll be a horrible person with money, right? So I don't think it does change people's true essence. So if you can find like your motivation around money, I think that really helps you move forward. Then the second part I always think is to look at the practical stuff, right? I think there's a lot of money mindset stuff out there, which just kind of really focuses on the mindset, which is fine, right? Because there is a lot to do around that. But I think actually a lot of times people need kind of simple systems, simple practical ways of doing things. So I'm not talking about like, you know, I'm talking about kind of like the day-to-day stuff, right? The day-to-day, month-to-month stuff. And what I try and help people do there is I don't want people to get like bogged down with budget plans and kind of recording what they're spending like down to the last penny and cents and all that kind of stuff, because it's like being on a diet. It's just too much hard work, right? We can do it for a certain length of time and then we think, oh, my hand's going to go back in the biscuit tin. This is just far too hard, you know, sticking to this type of diet. So I'm sure we've all been there, right, and experienced that. And I think budgets work really the same. We only have a certain amount of willpower, I think, every day, and we kind of use that up quite quickly in the morning. So to kind of push ourselves all the time to be making conscious decisions about money all the time, I think it's quite hard. So what I help people do is look at automating a lot more of what they do and having a system that's more liberating, allows you to spend guilt-free. So I use kind of an envelope type system. In the past, you might have had envelopes on your mantelpiece. In fact, I remember explaining this to a client and she said, oh, that's what my granny used to do. So this isn't like an original Caroline Domanska idea, right? But it's something I've used forever. It's something I've seen millionaire mindset guru people use. It's when I talk about it, then like I say, like this client of mine was like, my granny used to do that. Like her husband would come home from work with the paycheck or the cash in the envelope, and she'd take it. She'd put different amounts in different handbags and give him back what he was allowed to spend down the pub, right? So this is kind of the essence of it, really, is that it's about, when you look at your practical money stuff, it's about setting the intention for things to happen, I think. So a lot of people wait until their finances are in kind of a better order. They say, okay, I'm going to start saving for X when XYZ happens, right? So I'm going to start saving for my future once I've cleared this debt, or once this big deal's come in, or once my little one goes to school, or something like this. I don't know. They'll put some marker in the sand, right? And actually what that does is just kind of push it away and away and away. But for some people, I acknowledge that finances are just too tight to do this. But I would say for the majority, we can all save even if it's a small amount, even if you start with $1 toward different things that you want to do and you commit to saving, doubling that each month, you'll be surprised at how much faster you can get ahead. So I set up different jars for people, tend to use kind of internet banking nowadays to do that rather than kind of jars or envelopes on the mantelpiece, but that have different intentions. So things like personal growth, things like fun, saving for spending, like saving for something you don't even know you want yet, but it might come up. So, you know, why not have some money aside toward it? So once you start putting this money away towards things, what happens is you open the door, you open the possibility that thing's going to happen, and your brain starts working on different ways it can create that and it can make that happen for you. So you become more creative in terms of your income generation. And it also allows you to, for example, I have a jar of fun. And for people who are not very good at spending, I do have clients who find it difficult to spend money on the flip side, right? So for them, they have to spend everything in the fun jar every month. That's the rule. That's the absolute rule. So that's your joy jar, your fun jar, your pleasure pot, whatever you want to call it, right? And what that does is kind of liberate up your spending a bit, allows you to spend guilt-free. You've got money that's particularly earmarked towards that. So instead of kind of questioning yourself all the time, you're allowing yourself to move forward. So yeah, sorry, that was kind of a
Now, how does someone go about like setting the intentions? Does the intention need to be very specific, or can it be something more general? Or explain like how do I decide what intentions I need to set?
Well, I think, yeah, I mean, I give an idea of kind of what you might want to think about, because sometimes it can feel like, oh, why can't I just have everything coming into my current account and I kind of see what's happening and see what's left at the end of the month kind of thing. So why do I want lots of extra accounts, and that's all going to be complicated and all of that kind of stuff. But it doesn't have to be at all, actually. And once you most, I don't know if it's the same in the US, but I would imagine, right, that for most internet bankings, you can set these things up within about 3 clicks of a mouse, new savings account, and you can name it whatever you want to name it. And I think that's where it's so nice to see every time you log into your internet banking, you know, if it's holiday or Christmas or something like this, or if you're wanting to, because you can name these things whatever you like. Yeah, so it's really nice to set a really particular intention. So if it's kind of like holiday to the Maldives in August 2018 for 2 weeks, you know, you could call it that if you wanted to. So so it doesn't need to be generic. I think the more particular you are about it, the more your brain will, because you can trick your brain into thinking these things are already happening, right? It's not, our brains are clever, but we can actually fool it that it's already happening for us. So if we kind of, as if it's happening, then we will start to make progress towards it. That's for sure.
Do you find that having the money right there in the jars helps more compared to having it in the bank and you see the number change in the bank, but with the jars, you know, it's right there in front of you, or is there a difference at all?
I think if you leave it all in one account, I think what happens for people is they kind of are questioning themselves around the permission to use that money all the time. So that's one thing that happens. So you those feelings are kind of like that people get around guilt of spending. I shouldn't be doing this. Money should be going towards something else. All that kind of stuff. You know, why do we want the weight of all that on us, right? Why do we want to carry all that weight? So by divvying out money into the jars, you're giving yourself permission to spend that money in that way. So for example, I don't know, if something comes up, like say like there's a course you want to join, or like a retreat you want to go on for a weekend, or, you know, just something like that. And it's for you, for your own personal growth. If you've got a jar that's already for that, there's no thinking about like, should that be spent on the kids, or should that be spent on this, or should it be spent on that? Because guys are really good at doing this, right? They just think, oh, I want to go on a golf weekend, off we go, right? But as women, we tend to think, oh no, these people all come first. And we don't necessarily set aside money that's just for us. So things like that, you know, it opens the possibility of things happening, takes away that guilt of choosing to spend your money in that direction, I think. It also allows you to really, the second benefit, I think, of the jars is that it really allows you to see how much discretionary income you've got left each month. So a lot of the times the reason people kind of get into financial difficulty, or even just to a point where you think, oh, I'm spending a bit too much or whatever, it's because you don't really have a clear sense of what you've got left each month. So in that instance, for example, if you're not putting money away toward your personal growth, something comes along you want to do, and you're thinking, well, where should I take the money from, right? Whereas if you put away a little bit each month, honestly, you wouldn't have noticed it. Most of the time people don't notice it. It's automated, set up as an automatic thing. And before you know it, a few months' time, you look in this jar and you think, oh gosh, I've got stuff that I can use for that. So I think it gives a more accurate sense of what you've got left each month. So then you mindfully adjust your day-to-day spending accordingly. And it also allows you to get rid of the guilt, basically, around spending.
Do you think it's necessary to understand where the guilt comes from in order to move forward, or do you think it's you just...
Yeah, I mean, definitely, because everybody's different actually in that degree of kind of weight that they might carry around money. So third step of what I do is help people delve into their money story. So your money story, everything you've learned about money over time, from what you've seen, what you've heard, what you've experienced around you, what your parents did, what your grandparents did, your kind of ancestral lineage, everything kind of that you see in any kind of particular events that have happened to you over time around money. We really look and explore into that story to see where those beliefs came from, and then look at how we can change those beliefs. So I don't really think it works that way. I think it works in as much as we always have those beliefs, but then we create new ones that are stronger and more supportive to run alongside it. So a little bit like if you're in like a forest and then you see there's a really well-worn path, that's the stuff that we've learned over time, and it's really kind of easy to walk along, even if it's like not the most fun or it makes us feel a bit rubbish or anything like that. It's just easy because it's there. And when we want to make a new way of doing things, we kind of glimpse out the corner of our eye that small path that's almost hidden underneath the trees, and then I think, oh, that looks interesting. Maybe we could go along there. We feel a bit nervous, feel a bit scared, but actually we take the steps and we start making that pathway, and we grow and grow and grow that pathway. And then ultimately, then the other one becomes more overgrown. So it doesn't go, it doesn't erase, I don't think. I think it just becomes overgrown, and the other one becomes stronger. So I think sometimes people get scared about going into like what they've learned over time and their beliefs, because they think it's going to change them completely. But I don't think so. I think it's the essence of you is still there, and what you've learned is still there. It's just that you're making a conscious decision and choosing a new path to follow. Cool.
How do you get to staying on that new path instead of constantly going back to the old one, consciously or subconsciously? Because I know sometimes, you're trying to do something different, but a lot of times those habits and those certain behaviors. So how do I continue to move towards the path that I want to go on?
That's a really good question, actually. I think there's a lot you can do to reinforce your new beliefs, and I always try and find something that really resonates for my client. But some different things that we use are, I do things like where we design the new financial person you want to be. So we spend some time kind of visualizing and sketching that out and putting all the facets of that person together. So you almost have kind of a visual of what you imagine that person to be. The sort of, because you can design yourself to be any kind of financial person, any kind of wealthy person you want to be. It doesn't have to be kind of stereotype Rolls-Royce champagne kind of lifestyle. It can be whatever lifestyle feels first class to you, and that's really, really important that it whatever feels first class to you is an upgraded lifestyle, right? So you can do things like that, like really kind of look at the visual of it. You can try and hook in a new habit that you want to create to an old one. I find really works well, or one that you do consistently, right? So an easy one is like brushing your teeth. So you can add something on to brushing your teeth, like saying, like, I'm a wealthy, powerful woman who can receive wealth for what she does, or for what she, or that kind of thing, right? So I think that kind of works quite well, hooking different things in. And also a bit of, I kind of like a bit of aversion therapy as well. Like with the plastic bands. So if there's something you don't want to be thinking anymore, you can like flick yourself with the elastic bands to make it hurt. A bit harder than that actually always works quite well. And then, but the other thing you can do on that, which always looks a bit weird, is to kind of do it in private or in a secret place, is to then say what it is that you're really wanting and kiss your hand, right? So hurt yourself and then kiss yourself, right? To give yourself the kind of pain, pleasure reinforcement. So I think different things like that, different techniques can help us really kind of jolt our minds to where we want to be, right? I think it's about catching ourselves, and it's like anything, like our mind's a muscle at the end of the day. So, it's a bit like exercise, isn't it? You do have to make a conscious intent toward it. And at first it can feel a bit weird and a bit hard to do. And then you get into this and you have to push yourself a bit. And then you get into a groove of really enjoying it and really like, oh, I noticed what's going on with my mind there. You're standing in the supermarket queue and you're checking out the person shopping in front of you. Maybe this is only me who does that. But you're checking out the shopping in front of you and you're noticing what that does. Does that trigger you in any way? What's the feeling it brings inside your body? Does it make you feel good? Does it make you feel bad? What's coming up for you? Are you thinking, God, how can they afford XYZ? I'd never spend my money on this, or whatever. So there's once you get into the groove of it, you start noticing how you think about money all the time. So
the popping and the kissing of the hand kind of reminds me of like if your child does something, and like, no, don't do that, or and you go back and you encourage them and you say, this is what you do, this is what's better for you, and I'm telling you this because I love you, not because I want to hurt you. So that's kind of babying yourself and saying,
Yeah.
hey, the direction you're going in.
Yeah.
And go in that direction. I love you too much for that.
Mm.
Now, what person, like, what do you say if somebody is like, okay, I've been doing this for one day, no longer than that. I've been doing this a certain amount of time and I just don't feel like anything is changing and I'm starting to feel really frustrated. What do I do?
It is really not shifting. So you feel that your mindset's still stuck in the same thing. If you really feel quite stuck, I think it's probably coming down to either two ends of the spectrum. It's either there's more going on in your money story than you're thinking, than you've let yourself think about, or there's ways that you're subtly kind of bringing yourself down not to achieve, right? So I think we all have our comfort level, and we like to sit inside that zone. And some of us are good at or enjoy I really enjoy sticking my toe out of the comfort zone. I kind of like the buzzy feeling of it. But I know for other people, it's kind of like, why would I do that? I just want to stay inside the zone. Like, you are kind of weird. But I think what we do is we've got this kind of financial thermometer, which is set to kind of the level where we know how our world works when we earn that kind of money or we have that kind of income coming in. So one of the easy ways of seeing that is to look back over the last few years and see what you've earned each year and see kind of whether it's plateauing, whether it's had a peak or a trough, or what is it doing. Or you can look back a bit further as well, and what you might find is that there's an income level which you always hit and then it comes back down again. So like a thermometer, it's almost like it's set to like go no further than $50,000 a year or something, right? and you do stuff to bring it back down. And so it's kind of watching, perhaps from looking at it from the other side. So if you've delved into your money story and that doesn't, it's either maybe you need to go deeper in that, or maybe it's, okay, well, how am I bringing myself back down all the time to stay within my comfort level? There's a really good book called The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. I don't know if you've read it. And that's all about what they call upper limit problems. That's kind of where we're talking here, is that we kind of sabotage ourselves to stay within our zone of comfort. So when life gets good, we find it too hard almost. It's like, oh my God, how could life be this good? How can it be this great? So we do stuff to bring us back down to the level that we're used to. So we create an argument with our husband, or, or we forget things, maybe we like not intentionally, but subconsciously we're doing stuff, right, to bring stuff back down to our comfort level. So that might be another angle to look at it from, is where are we sabotaging ourselves to bring us back into our comfort level.
Have you ever found that it's kind of like cleaning, like making the shifts, how you clean and there's dust on things, but as you're cleaning, like the dust is flying everywhere and it may aggravate your nose, but things are still getting cleaned. So some people, when they're making the shift, it seems like maybe things are getting worse, but they're actually not. It's just part of the cleaning process, or like the peeling back the layers of the onion. Have you found that to be true?
I think so. I think definitely. You can sometimes feel that things go a bit more chaotic before they become ordered, I think. But it is important that kind of making the space in your mind for new things to enter. And I think when we're getting decluttering, if you were, of everything else that we don't need or want anymore, then we have to be kind to ourselves and just let that process happen sometimes. So it's about taking a bit of time, being kind to yourself, doing a lot of the self-care that we were talking about, having a cup of tea and a biscuit, taking some time to really let this new way of thinking come in. Because I think working on your money mindset, like anything really, you're not going to suddenly arrive. You're not going to suddenly go, boom, that's it, I'm sorted. If you listen to people who, got millions in the bank, right? They're still working on their mindset. There's still new things have come along to challenge their money mindset, right? So having more money isn't the answer. You'll be just as miserable with more money pretty much, I think, from what I've seen and what I've read. And in a way what I've experienced as well. I mean, I've had times where I've earned a lot more than I do now, but I'm quite happy with my income levels at the moment. But when I lived in the Middle East, earned even more, was surrounded by wealth all the time, but it didn't make me any happier, because it's about what's going on inside of you. So I think we can just chase and chase and chase the dollar and hope that that's going to suddenly make us happier. But I think ultimately doing the work on yourself, as difficult as that might be at points, will in the long run make you more richer in all ways, right? In all ways, not just a monetary way.
Now, what about the people who are like, okay, I'm all on board with shifting my money mindset, but my spouse, I'm having a little bit more challenges with them. Then what do you do?
Okay, so right, that's a really good question, because I do coach couples actually, and I really enjoy doing that, because it's like being, sometimes you just have to sit back and let things happen for a little while. But this is really important to remember, okay? So we all have our own money blueprint. So we all have our own things that we've learned about money over time, the way that we do money. So you do money one way, your partner does money another way, right? And quite often actually in couples you'll find one is a spender and one is a saver. Not always, but quite often you're from a different kind of camp, as it were, with money. So the important thing is, right, is not to try and change the other person. We all know that, right? I think, but trying to change your spouse, you're on a hiding to nothing, it's not going to work. So just recognize you both got your own individual blueprints, and then decide together what's the blueprint for our relationship. Okay, so how does money work in our relationship? How does it work best for the benefit of both of us, for the benefit of the family, and for our longer term goals? And how do we want us to behave with money within that context? So even if one of you is a saver or a spender, right, you can still say, well, you're still the saver and you're still the spender, but what do we do for our relationship? So there's a third way. So you have three ways of dealing with money, right, in that instance. And I think then what happens is one person is not feeling like they're being dragged, kicking and screaming to the other side and so forth, because there's pros and cons of both ways of being with money, right? So, a spender might have more experiences in life. They might get things done quicker, kind of with less procrastination. The saver would be more steady, kind of, they've got that security thing going on, they're always there, like if something goes wrong, have you got any money in the bank? Yes. So there's kind of a balance, there's pros and cons for both, I think. So it's finding that third way, that third money blueprint for your relationship, and deciding consciously how that looks between you, I think is really important.
Okay, so they've talked to their spouse, and their spouse is still not on board. And you are left. No, okay, so I have a question for two different groups of people.
Okay.
Or the one where their spouse is like the main breadwinner, so they may not have, you're trying to shift the money mindset, but you're not bringing in any income, and your spouse is the one that is the breadwinner. And then the other person who is the breadwinner, but their spouse is not coming along. So should I have asked that separately? So two different people, you know what, I'm trying to shift, but my spouse is just not on board at all. And I've tried a lot of different things, and I want to make the changes, but they are just like.
You've got to start small, I think. It's got to start small. So in the first instance, you talked about where somebody isn't the breadwinner and they don't have any income of their own, okay? Still, I think you can start to implement kind of the ideas of why you want wealth in your life, what you're doing around your day-to-day banking. I think quite often, it's not always true, but I think even if you're not the breadwinner, you might well still have responsibility for the finances in some way, kind of like the donkey work around it, if you were, right? So I think one of the good ways can be to really start at the beginning. So what is the money why? Think for yourself first of all, really kind of like, why are we living our life this way, and why do I want it to be this way? And if you're happy with how that is, great. If you're not, then money is just kind of like a connection into lots of different areas of your life, right? So be your spirituality, your health, your personal growth. It could be your work, your career, your children, friends, family. So have a look perhaps where money is influencing other parts of your life, and is there a way you can kind of approach the money idea but from a different angle, or is it giving you the idea that perhaps actually something else needs to change before this can? So, does somehow kind of like family need to become more of a priority, or health needs to become more of a priority before kind of the money thing can be addressed? So maybe that's one way of looking at it for somebody who feels kind of, who keep banging the same drum and saying, we've got to sort out our money stuff, then it just feels really kind of naggy, doesn't it, when you say that, right? Got to sort out our money stuff. So I think it's making it the connection to what's the wider picture. What's the wider picture? What's the thing that's really going on underneath here? Is it really about the money stuff, or is it about something else we need to shift? So that could be one way of looking at it. And then the other person they're the breadwinner, but the other person's not coming on board? No? That was not the question.
They're the breadwinner, but the other person is not coming on board. They don't see a problem with what's going on, but you're the breadwinner.
Yeah. You're the one who's busting your gut, right? And the other person's just cruising around. Is that kind of what you're trying to say?
Well, I've seen different situations.
Yeah.
Two people make money, but then one of them feels like they get to make all the decisions with the money, even though both of them are bringing in an income. And then also the situation where maybe one person is, making the money. But the other person is like, well, I just want to do what I want to do. So I've actually seen all three of them.
Yeah.
So I'm curious about just helping the person that may be in one of those situations where I've heard stories of, when, I'm not sure how it works where you're from, but during a certain time of year, everyone states they get their tax refund, and then, one spouse may get a certain amount of money and another spouse may get a certain amount of money. But then the other spouse, that's the spender, ends up taking the money that they gave to the other spouse and spending it all. But I guess that's where I look at it as seeing both people are responsible, and you kind of even have to set the boundaries in your marriage of, and you tell me as the expert what you think of setting those boundaries of saying, hey, listen, this is what we agreed on. You decided how much money you were going to receive. I decided how much money I was going to receive. And you have to accept the consequences of spending all the money. Or you can have a spouse that is a saver, but then the other one is a spender, and then the money that the saver saved for themselves, they end up having to spend it on the family.
Yeah.
So it's like it's just, they just need to call you and set up an appointment, whatever. just set up an appointment with whatever your challenge is, because it's so many different dynamics.
There is.
Like we could talk all day about, okay, with couple A, this person, this couple B, this person does this person does this. Yeah. So sometimes I think you just have to be patient with your spouse, and at the same time, remember, there's a reason why you married them.
Yeah.
So there is something about you that was like, hey, like this type of person that behaves this type of way. And just what you talked about, moms and women, and learning to take care of yourself and set those boundaries.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're right. We could think of loads of different scenarios, right? There are so many computations of how people do money. When it comes to relationships, definitely I go back to that kind of third money blueprint idea, and that you've got a way that your relationship does it. Okay, sometimes it's hard to get down to having that conversation around money. I think that's where, somebody like myself can be really helpful, in as much as be the first honest conversation that people have often had about money when there's somebody else in the room. So you kind of like, rather than the two people kind of talking at each other and it becoming a bit of a complex situation, I'm there as kind of like the middle man, the mediator, if you were. And so the actual honesty about money and how it's making people feel can come out in the situation. But of course, if you want to do something about it yourself, then yeah, I think thinking about this kind of third way, that it's not about bringing somebody else to the other side of your way, it's what's the third way for your relationship. There's also kind of like sometimes people do it. I have some clients who've done it this way, and I've seen it work for them, is where, you know, the joint money comes in, and each person has a amount of money, whatever amount you decide. Let's say it's, I don't know, $200 each or something, and that money, no questions asked, is your money to do whatever you like with, right? So it's just spent in any which way, shape or form, and the other person's not allowed to say, "Ooh, why did you go and buy those new shoes?" or something like that, or "Why did you do this with the money?" You know, it's just your money to do whatever you like with, no questions asked. So that little techniques like that can kind of help iron out what's happening. But I think in my experience when coaching couples, I think it is very much, it's all about the unsaid stuff, the stuff that really hasn't been said, about the way that it makes you feel, like the responsibility that you're taking on, and the thoughts that you're having to take on, and the kind of around the safety and security of your family, right? And I think as women, we definitely, and mums especially more so, is that, you know, that's really kind of comes down paramount to our core, doesn't it? Like to create that safety and security for our family. And when that gets disrupted by money patterns, it can be quite scary. So I think looking at empowering yourself around money as a woman is really important as well. And that we are actually, the more wealth that we have, the more we can provide, I think, good back into this world, this whole, and the more empowered and confident we feel around money, the better things that can happen. And I think about who are the good custodians of money, women and men, but like women who are out there striving to better themselves, grow personally, creating their own businesses and working hard. I think, you know, we're great custodians of wealth, and we should think more of ourselves and allow ourselves to receive more, so that we can be those good custodians, essentially.
It sounds like the work that you do with individuals and with couples is deeper than money. It's like how the money shows up is more of an external thing.
Yeah.
And it's getting down to, okay, this is why the money is showing up for you, the way it's showing up, because of something deeper that's going on.
Yeah.
That is a beautiful thing that you are doing.
No, it is. And that's what I come back around to. It's partly, you've got to have some practical stuff going on there, but actually, if you leave the mindset bit out, then it's the missing piece of the jigsaw, and you can do the practical stuff all you like, but you need to look at how is money showing up? How you do money is how you do everything.
So how, as a mom, how do I prepare my children to have a healthy mindset and start that process? Like, when should I start, and what are some things that I can do to help them grow into, you know, having a healthy money mindset?
I think it's really important. Actually, I read an article the other day around how do we help our children in this digital age of money, right? Where we don't touch and feel money so much. You know, you think like already we're going this way of kind of like paying for things on our watches and all this kind of stuff, right? So there might well be the whole generation of children who never kind of, or hardly ever touch like notes and coins and all of that kind of stuff. So that's kind of weird, and that kind of brings up a deeper question, is like, do we in order to know the value of money, do we actually have to physically see it? That side, I think it can start from really young. Like, I've got a 15-month-old, and of course, if it's tempting, let's say she found like a coin on the floor or something like this, right? It's tempting to say to her, don't touch that, it's dirty, right? Or something along those kind of lines. Or so what are you saying to them already, right? That money's dirty and shouldn't be touched, and, you know, keep it away from you and that kind of thing. It's kind of subtle, but, you know, what if you said something different instead, like, just can I hold that money for you, or can I look after that? Because we need to take care of money, right? We need to take care of money. So kind of using that different language right from an early on, and just, you know, see how you're even talking to your little ones around around money and what might happen to it. So yeah, and I think as time goes on, then I don't think it's too soon really to kind of start with a bit of money management and learning how to maybe have the different jars. You can make it really simple, like a spend, save, share, 3 jars. You can do it that way with kids, quite nice. So money they want, if you give them pocket money for chores or however you might want to do it, then teach them how to split that up between the different jars that they can save for stuff, spend. They get to spend money as well. It's not all about kind of doom and gloom with just saving and putting it away. But they get to spend some money as well, and also sharing is a really nice thing, right? So about giving, helping others who are less fortunate than you and things like that. So sharing your wealth around. And that's one of the really fortunate things about becoming wealthy. And then the other thing that I think is really important is creating possibility. So rather than saying, oh, we can't afford that, or we can't do this, we can't do that, we work on the idea of like, how can I make it happen? So if they come to you and say, I want a new scooter or something like that, and you're thinking, not yet, or like it's not in the budget, or kind of whatever, I'll say to them, well, okay, well, it's not something I can do for you right now, but how could you make it happen? What ideas do you have to make that happen? You might be really surprised at what kind of comes out, because kids are so imaginative, aren't they? And you see all the time now the little kids, doing their little entrepreneurial things and kind of fostering that spirit. And I think in this day and age, we've really got to foster that entrepreneurial spirit in kids as well. So yes, I think for little E's, it's looking at the language you're using, doing a bit of money management, but also fostering that entrepreneurial spirit as well.
Now, should our children be involved in the planning? Maybe they don't necessarily, well, you tell me, should they have some input in the planning, or should they just be involved where they're sitting at the table with you to see this is where money is going? Or how should we handle that? Do they need to know what's going on in our finances?
Yeah, I think it's really worthwhile to all sit around the table together. I mean, I've seen it with clients where they involve, especially as a financial advisor. I saw this, not very many people, but I've seen it with a handful of people where their teenagers are getting involved and they know what's kind of being set up and all this kind of stuff. And I remember at the time thinking, wow, God, that's like really enlightened almost. I've never really seen it happen. But then you start thinking, well, actually, that's definitely, a really good thing to do. I think earlier on you can get them involved in kind of like the dreams. What dreams do you have that you want money to bring into reality for you? So that can be really fun stuff, like making vision boards, or finding out kind of what would everybody like to do, and then picking some priorities and working towards that. It also shows kids that money has, sometimes we have to wait for things, that money isn't always available. And again, it starts off that creativity as well, doesn't it, in terms of income generation, like what can we do to kind of create more income, or do we choose not to have something else because we want this more, or those type of things. So yeah, I think being involved right from the beginning is really useful. I mean, what you don't want to see is, think about what you're learning from your money story. What you don't want your kids to see is kind of you sitting there furrowed brow, kind of like once a month or something, or every few days kind of looking at money and then them saying, what are you doing? Well, I'm doing the money. Oh, and then starting to think, well, I don't want to be ever involved with that money thing. It looks horrible. Why would I want to do that? It makes my daddy sad, So think about kind of like how you are around kind of your money, day-to-day stuff and your month-to-month stuff, like how you are around that, and you can make it into a fun thing, right? I digress, but you can set yourself money dates. So you could do that with kids as well, right? You can set yourself a date with money, like glass of wine, bar of chocolate, whatever kind of makes you happy, a cup of tea. But you could do the same with the kids, right? Yeah, so you could have a money play date with them just to kind of explore what you're doing with money that month. Would be a good thing.
That sounds a lot more fun than saying, okay, we're going to do the budget. Saying
we're going to exactly. Have a money day. Yeah, that's romantic.
It
Wow.
sounds a lot better than the budget, everybody. We have to do this. We have to see where all this money is going to go. I do like that idea.
Yeah,
Do
money
you,
day. Yeah. I like that.
do you feel like when at a certain age, when children start having a consistent income, should they contribute to the household, or how should that work?
Yeah. It's a personal choice, I suppose, but I think, yes, I think um, I think it's worthwhile, even if it's not like you know, a, if it's a token amount, right? I think that's the thing. It's just to get them used to that money going out of their account, that it's going towards the household. I think it probably makes them more appreciative of what's going on in the household itself. Even if you end up saving the money for them and using it to help them out, with a down payment or something like that, then that's fine. I think that's whatever kind of works for you, I think, on that basis. But yeah, I think it's definitely worthwhile. And I would probably say, like, once they're if they're going toward full-time work, really, it depends. I mean, it really depends. But I wouldn't probably do it though just on doing like a Saturday job or something like that. It'd be kind of a bit, I don't know though, but maybe like 16, 18 or something like this, they should be thinking more about what's happening. And it's really worthwhile just sitting down and having a chat to them about money, because it can feel quite, I mean, I remember when I got my first paycheck from working on a Saturday job, and I'm thinking, it was like £125, was that like $175 or something? And I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm like the richest person ever. And it's like, what am I going to do with all this money? And you start thinking you can do this, you can do that, and which isn't a bad thing, right, to start thinking expansively. But I think I mean, hopefully you've already paved the way with the idea of kind of like money management and looking at what you want to do with your money, and it's not just about the now, about kind of things you want to do in the future as well. So hopefully by the time they get their first paycheck, you've paved the way anyway. But but if you haven't, then it's never too late to start chatting about these things, right?
Our children, my mother gives them money, and they get money for their birthdays and things like that. And our oldest, she just turned 8, and she had some money, and she had something she wanted to buy. And I was like, okay, well, you have art class, so do you want to pay for art class, or do you want to get this because you are responsible for your art classes? This is something that you want to do. And I was so proud of her that she made the decision to go ahead and pay for art. And it was $40. So for her, and she had the cash in her hand. So for her, it's like, hey, I'm paying this $40. And to me, if I was her age, I would have thought, like, this is a lot of money.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was really, really proud of her for doing that. And so we have conversations. Like, sometimes it's like, okay, how am I going to get more money? And I try to get them down. Like, it's okay. There's money everywhere. There's not a shortage of money. And okay, what ideas? What can you do? You're an artist. You can sell art.
Yeah.
So I try to get them to think of other ways, and not just, I don't want them to stress about money, or money to be this big deal, or this big, like, it's a responsibility, and teaching them that money, allows you to do certain things, but not a bad thing or a good thing. It's all about what you choose to do with it. And I've seen a lot where people, like you talked about earlier, how having a lot of money is this bad thing. And especially depending on what religious community you grew up in, then I've seen it more in certain communities, especially with being a Christian. I've seen it a lot of like, oh no, this is bad. I'm supposed to be poor, because the poorer I am, the more I love Jesus. And so it's like, what? So I try to definitely make sure they have a healthy money mindset. And then, I have, we have this interview, so I'm have to watch this again. This interview again so I can say, take notes and be like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
And this is what I need to do. Okay, before we close this interview, I would love to hear, like, what is your, like, final closeout? If you don't do anything else, this is what you need to do. This is like the main thing. If you only remember one thing from this interview, then what is it that people need to remember?
I think that it's okay to want more in your life, that it's safe to want more, and that there's a lot of good that you can do with having additional wealth in your life. And the way to kind of receive more is to take care of what you've got well already. That's the system stuff I'm talking about. And then also see where you're blocking yourself in terms of your mindset. So is it the way that you think about wealth? Is it the way that you think about people with money are? Is it kind of like you say, is it not spiritual to be wealthy? That kind of thing. So really examine kind of the messages that you're carrying around and ask yourself whether they're true and whether being that it's okay to want more. That's a fine place to be.
I love that. I love that. And it was so peaceful.
Yeah.
And I feel like the same way we should be about our money. And I like it. Just, it's peaceful. It's
not grab or anything like that. No. Yeah, and that's, I guess, another important thing, isn't it? Kind of just what does the physical kind of essence around money make you feel? Is it kind of that grabby mentality? Do you have some peace around it? Is it about flow? They're always useful things to pick up on where you're at, and just think about where those things come from. Is it the energy you want to carry around money, or do you want it to be something different? You can change it. It's all good. You can change it.
Well, thank you for being with me today. Please share with everyone where they can find you and what else you have going on. How can somebody work with you?
Okay, so you can find me at my website, which is moneymindsetcoaching.co.uk, because I'm in England, and if you didn't guess by the accent. And on Facebook, say Money Mindset Coaching, so they're kind of the two places I'm hanging out mostly. I've got coming up, which I'm very excited about, live training on clearing your money blocks. So I'm going to go through each step in my process, doing clearing on the blocks, the typical blocks that come up on each of those. I'm going to wrap that up with a masterclass on the Saturday, and I'm going to open the doors to my online course as well, which is the Create Your Money Blueprint roadmap, which really allows you to have that path to creating that ease and flow with money that you desire. So if you want to sign up for the challenge, you can do that through my website or my Facebook page, but you can also go to bit.ly, so bit.ly /clear your money blocks now. So
is it all lowercase, all capital?
All lowercase, yeah.
All lowercase. Okay.
Clear your money blocks now, yeah.
Well, thank you.
No problem at all. It's been so much fun talking to you. Thank you so much.
If you liked this episode, there's more where that came from. Subscribe, rate, review, and visit thesanemom.com for bonuses created just for you.